Good
Hey,
afternoon, Adam. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Family, everybody safe and healthy?
Family is safe and healthy on Wednesday, number 8 of quarantine.
Number 8, not too bad. Yeah, we're good here. Finally getting a little bit of sunny weather, so moods are kind of shifting a little bit. Everybody's getting a little bit better mood.
Good to hear. Good to
Yep.
hear. So
All
we're
right.
gonna jump into some creative stuff we do today, huh?
Yeah. Today's probably going to be a little bit more abbreviated session than we have done in the past, but this is just creative uses that we can use with using the SignComp tension frames and some other standard product lines as well, using the curve cut solutions.
Awesome. Let's jump in and get creative.
Let's do it. All right. So curve cutting. So what curve cutting is just putting multiple notches in the extrusion so that way we can create shapes. Okay. So we're taking the aluminum lumber that we offer. And like I said, we're putting multiple cuts in the extrusion. So in order to get there, we require a DWG or a DXF file in order to get the proper cuts in there. Okay. What I mean by that is rather than taking a full stick and just cutting it 1 inch on center, a lot of these are going to have different shapes to it, which might require more cuts on center or a little bit further spacing. So that way we can create the entire kit that you're after.
And now, Jeremy, we can do the curve cutting in-house at SignComp, or we can take the drawing and make recommendations on where to make the cuts, and so the shop can do them at their place of business as well.
At their leisure. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. That's a good point. So what Adam's saying is that still submit the drawing to us. We can either do A, the full kit. B, another example is just taking the full length and curve cutting it for you. So that way you're just getting multiple lengths to finish up in-house, or we can give you the recommended cuts so you can get the extrusion and cut that in-house.
So real quick, Jeremy, before jumping on, and of course, our friends Sarah and Steve will love me for saying this. In what situation, let's say we don't have a drawing, but we know we just need to do a circle. We're going to curve cut a circle. As long as we have the diameter, can we get away with just a PDF or knowing or calling out a 6-inch radius corner?
Yes. Same thing with a radius corner is that as long as we know what the radius is, we don't need any kind of particular file for that. Just let us know what that is and we'll be able to cut that for you.
All right, cool. Let's check out some of these.
Okay. So first we have one from ABC Sign here. This was a fantastic Under Armour display that we did for them. And on the left-hand side, you're going to see all these drawings pretty much throughout this little mini presentation that we put together for you. But when you submit the drawing, all right, we're going to break it down piece by piece like you see here. All right. So rather than trying to mess with a full length extrusion and maximize that, we cut it to a feasible, workable length for you as well. So not only are the curve cuts in there, but we're also putting the proper miter cut on there as well.
That's a clean looking sign.
Absolutely. And you'll even notice this isn't a straight sides, straight roof, straight bottom. You can see that we had to actually kind of make a little shape with this cabinet here. So a lot of these that you're seeing here, this one from Image First, this is a lot of these in the first beginning slides here are going to be just with our flex frames. All right.
Well, I think, Jeremy, when you look at that one, if you look back real quick, if you look at that one, you probably assume that's going to be rigid when you first look at that. But those little tiny radiuses in each corner and that little kind of decorative top to give the branding, that comes out really nicely and looks really clean as a flex face.
Right. And size is really going to kind of justify which face material you're going to use. You know, with these being the massive size that they are, weight is going to be a huge factor with that. So other examples here, you can see how intricate the Santa Ana Star is for the casino here. And then everybody's favorite. Adam, can you explain this one a little bit?
Yeah, these are our buddies over at Nova Sign in New Jersey. This is a really nice one here at the Rivers Casino because I was there on the shop floor when they were building these, and that is a really cool swoosh logo. Actually, I think, Jeremy, you might have been with me that day when we went out there. But really, really clean look, and they did those swooshes throughout the whole outside of that casino building.
Right, and you can see on the left hand how they loaded the LEDs inside there. It's almost similar to fascia band as well, you know. So outside of curve cutting, if you need any fascia bands, we obviously can accomplish that with our tension system.
Yeah, some pretty narrow points there on there.
Right. Now this is one I do want to touch on too. Is this sign from Allie is whenever you have insets or you have to cut out the inside of a cabinet that you see here, like the circle inside of the 6. We encourage you to look at the entire cabinet itself when we're getting ready to tension. Okay, what I mean by that is you can see it in stages all the way down. Is let's not even worry about that circle just yet on the inside. All right, let's tension the entire face, top to bottom, left to right. And then on slide 3 here, you can see that now that everything is under tension, Dave went inside there, cut out the circle for it, and then he's going to attach the clips to get those inside there. Because what can happen is if we get all that cut and 2 sides there, what can happen is if we have to adjust it just slightly, we might either have a cut inside there or the lines aren't going to line up properly. So just looking at the overage, but whichever project this would entail, feel free to contact us and we can give you a couple of tips inside there as well.
I think what's nice about that showing that number, this could be for large commercial buildings on the side of a highway where you're using an address, where you might have been trying to figure out how to do a metal sign or a rigid sign that might be, 6, 7, 8 feet tall. This is a pretty good way to do a set of numbers, and again, really clean looking. So,
like a set of large channel letters as well.
Oh, look at this. We got a question from our favorite guy, Jeremy. Mr. Jason Lamberts. Can you explain the benefits of flex over rigid in these applications?
Great question, Jason. Thank you. Now, I think I touched on it a second ago too, was size is really going to be the factor in weight. When you start getting, let's just say 10 by 20, even larger, weight is going to be a huge factor, and good luck trying to find pieces of acrylic that size or rigid material that size. And Adam, you even touched on it too with that house, with the wavy sides and whatnot too. So I'm not saying rigid isn't going to be a solution, but flex is something you should really
Right. You're not bringing 2 pieces of material together. You're not dealing with putting that material together in the wind. And what's really nice with a lot of these applications is depending on when and how you tension them, you can kind of take a little more control over how you install them in the field. So we're going to show one as we go on. And a good comment that came in from Matt Smith, as he put, flex does not break. So again, with wind and things of that nature, thank you, Matt, for that comment. Flex is far more durable in these situations.
Right. So feel free to throw out more questions to us. But the rest of these slides these are just pretty cool applications that have happened too. I know it's not SignComp related, but this one's really neat because of the flex face itself. You can see that during the day it's black, at night it's white. Hey, Kara, how are you? And so still being repetitive here, but this is the drawing that we were able to break down for them, and they just did this. They tensioned this very well over at Image First.
Yeah, I don't know if we're able to zoom in on the drawing itself, but let's talk about that for a moment. What's really cool that I think SignComp does that's a little bit different is you'll see these and they're sectioned and they're lettered. So when we do a kit like this, every little section is broken down and identified. So it's not really a game of mystery trying to figure out, okay, which part is the bird's head, which part is the bird's beak, and so on in this drawing. I'm assuming it's a bird.
Exactly. No, well, our flex systems are great when it comes to college and sports stadiums and universities and all that too. So here's another great example, another Image First. This one actually has a YouTube video on there as well. So it shows the gentleman being able to tension this in-house. This one, I know it looks pretty complex, but really if you just top to bottom, left to right, just look at this thing as a whole rather than the little intricacies, that's where you can go back through and tension those down. Nice Remax. The other reason to reach out to us right in the beginning with a drawing is because we're able to even able to break it down to knowing which product to supply. We have retro frames. We have that nice 6-inch deep application as well. And then still with the other ones, we have the hingeable cabinets, assuming that we'd be able to hinge those open. So we'll direct you in the proper direction. So also with our flex and the flexibility with our tension clips, no pun intended, is that this cabinet was so large. I believe, Brian, I might be mistaken, but I think this was about 50 foot tall. So not only could they not get it out of their shop for install, but we were able to break this into 4 sections for them, and they stacked them. All right. They just didn't put a cover in between where those were stacking up. So that way, when it illuminated at night, you wouldn't see much shadow at all. So they also contrasted that well with the color.
Right. That's actually a great example for anybody out there listening or a shop that might be concerned about taking on a larger project due to shop space or delivery method. Just communicating with us, we're able to find good break points.
Right.
And I do want to put on the record, Brian, I did know it was an Iowa Hawkeye. I just wanted to see if the Iowa guy was going to chime in.
He knew it was a sports team, Brian.
I knew it was some sort of basketball team, right? Hey, we do have a question from Matt Smith. Jeremy, maybe you'll know this. And if not, we can find out. He was wondering the system that was used on the new Globe Life Park for the Texas Rangers logo.
Yes, it was. Thank you, Matt.
Oh, all right. That was
an easy question. I like those one.
And then just a comment here from Bill. Another reason the shapes work so well today is we were able to use LED lighting that provides much more consistent illumination than conventional lighting.
You know, that's actually a good point too, is you'll notice a lot of these are going to be bleed frames. So nothing is coming over. There's no retainer look to these, is because we've improved our frames. So even I'm going to bring in a prop here. So with a 6-inch deep frame here, you'll see that there's nothing obstructing for the LED light to get to the perimeter. So all these that you'll see is going to be a lot of the bleed applications.
I was going to see if you were going to call out a part number for everybody.
Oh, part 2233.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And you can see how detailed we really can get. Oh, sorry. Let's bring the presentation back up, Brian. Once again, Adam, another sports team. But you can see how intricate we really can get with our curve cutting on the left-hand side. It's really hard to believe that is a flex frame.
That's a great logo. We do have two comments. Let's bring them both up because we know both these people. Brian says, when a customer receives a curve cut kit, does it arrive prefabricated or is there more fabrication needed?
That is a very common question that we get. So you'll basically be getting, Brian, can you go back to the slide real quick? So on the left-hand side, I wish I could blow up these drawings for you, but you'll see these dark pieces up here on the left. That's the curve cut. That's how close we had to get with these. So in a roundabout way, I'm getting to the answer here, but those are the sections you're going to get that in. So those are basically going to be noodles that you'll have to shape. So everything is going to be cut to size with the proper miter, straight cut, whatever is necessary for that cabinet, but you will still have to shape it. Now, a lot of these single-sided, you'll notice on the Bobcat head here on the second slide right here, we can provide you with the backer file. So that way you get a head start, and then that's going to actually be able to be your guide when you get this extrusion to form around that to add rigidity. And especially with this 2233, it doesn't hinge open, so there's no SignComp frame support tubes in there obstructing light or adding weight to it. It's just a single-sided cabinet. You'll still need your backer supports for mounting, but other than that, it's an all-in-one piece. It's been a lot of these solutions you see here.
Well, what's really cool about it is that when we do get these DWG or DXF files in, we're able to, and Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're able to actually address the amount of cuts that are needed for the radius or the curve that we're shaping. We're not just saying, okay, this whole thing is a inch on center cut. We're really addressing the amount of cuts that are needed to make that particular shape or design.
Absolutely. Some of those, there's no reason to add more than necessary because you don't want to take a lot of the structural integrity away from the frame. So some of those could be 2 inches on center. Some could be 3/4 of an inch on center. So that's why we require that so we can pull those measurements out of there for you.
Hey, we got to look at this question we have here.
Wow, look who tuned in.
You want to read this one out loud?
These are all very unique applications. There are limitations to using extrusions for it. Are there limitations for using extrusions for these applications? Like, are there radiuses that might be just too tight? If so, how are these areas addressed? Adam?
Let me read the question again.
Limitations, just how tight can we get?
I mean, I think, it comes down to getting the drawings in the hands of somebody like a Sarah Breihof and finding out whether or not our extrusions can be able to make that, or we're going to need to, possibly come with a creative solution to guide you in a manufactured corner or angle piece, kind of like the AT&T signs we're going to come across, which would be a great example to come back to this question and talk a bit about how we get creative in areas where our profile might actually touch itself or not be able to get that tight.
Right. Yep. And that is actually coming up too. We created actually Sarah did create a drawing showing a fabricated end for specifically the AT&T program that we'll see here in a couple of slides.
That's why that DWG and DXF is so important.
Absolutely. So expect that to be the first question when you submit a quote request. So once again, just some pretty cool designs. It's hard to believe that these are all flex face with how beautiful these things turned out. This one, I actually had the pleasure of curve cutting. We were fairly busy in the shop, so I got out there and I was able to lend my assistance. I was sore for a very long time, but it wasn't too difficult on the radial arm saw. But these were
amazing. The sign guy was able to make it work. I bet if we zoomed in, we could see some cut concerns, Jeremy. But we're glad the sign guy was able to make it work.
We'll just leave that one there. So here they are. Here's the AT&T globes. Now I don't have the drawing pulled up on here, but you can see on the left-hand side here, Adam, where these are straight cut at the end because it just got way too sharp. And the other concern too, like Bill had mentioned, is illumination. So we want to make sure we're still getting light to that far peak. So Sarah came up with another concept drawing on how they can fabricate at end. Now they don't need to do that process, but it's very helpful for the end user to see, here's what you can do. Here's the idea behind it.
So Jeremy, maybe you could elaborate a bit for anyone watching out there. And we get to that corner piece. We're no longer with our extrusion, but we're working on the fabricated end. How are we stretching and tensioning that banner? Because we no longer have a track for our clips.
Correct. So there's not much tension load there at all. The most popular I've seen is double-sided tape. You'll pull the fabric back, double-sided tape, and then rubber washers. Just run some screws through it. As long as it's fabricated properly and flat, our cover's still going to be able to wrap over that and still give it that nice, clean appearance. And you can see how high they are in the air. I know a lot of perfectionists are out there, but still being that high in the air, you're not gonna be able to tell the difference either. But there are, once again, some more tech tips that we can offer with those tighter peaks.
Now, I do want to clarify this is club soda for anyone out there watching. Yeah. That came on the comment box here a couple of times. Just want to point it out. It's too early for anything else.
So just rounding out these last ones here from Everbright, we had the pleasure to go out there and assist them with tensioning as well. That was a great experience for myself. But a group of us did go over there and help them tension, which was, once again, it was just a great learning experience. So everything turned out beautifully. You could see how high these are up in the air. I didn't go do that. I wouldn't do that part, but I helped tension.
Great example, and we have one in Philadelphia that's up there as well. Great example of large letters on the side of the building.
Right.
These profiles, that 2233 you showed, is an incredible profile for large channel letters and logos.
And just to reiterate too, you can see with the B and the O there is don't cut out those sections just yet. Start getting the entire cabinet under tension, and then we'll go back through and cut those out. Just because we want to make sure that it's all nice and flat before we go cutting those out. So just a reminder there. Some very unique letters. This really dissects and dives into how intricate we can get with our extrusions and how massive we can get with our extrusions as well. This was pretty neat how Holt House Sign in Ohio. This was very cool what they did. So it was our bleed application. It's a 2233 again, if I'm not mistaken. But you'll notice they didn't get the cover. So we didn't supply them with a cover. They just broke form and cut out their own cover to come and wrap around the face, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's a good look.
Yeah, it's pretty slick. Ceiling mount applications. This one's been around for a while, and this is actually, Adam, wasn't this used rigid? Was this a rigid?
2107, I believe.
2107, okay.
Yeah, 2107. This is done with our good partner, City Neon, down in Morgantown, West Virginia.
Right. And these are just things that you don't.
I was going to say they hung the logo and then did a halo off the back, which I thought made it look really cool.
I'll go back to that. Yep. So once again, these are just kind of thinking outside of the box, just giving you some ideas. Yesco did the Colorado Rocky logo up in the locker room of another sports team, Adam.
Oh yeah, they probably play football or something, right?
Yeah, something
like that.
Yeah. All right, so all those were with our flex frames, whether it's going to be our retro, the 2233, some hingeable cabinets, or we can combine some of our C channels and retro over that, because I failed to mention that earlier, is we want to reach a certain depth. And if we can't hinge the cabinet open, there's no need to give you the hingeable cabinet. So what we'll do is we'll actually grab our C channels out of the architectural line and pair it with our retro frames. We can do single, we can do double. I believe we can get 10 inches single-sided all the way down to right at the 4-inch, if I'm not mistaken. So every depth we've pretty much got accomplished. But here we're switching gears and showing you that we can do this with our rigid frames as well. So out of our standard product line.
Yeah, which I think this is important. A lot of people walk through and they say, you know, when I get to this portion of a job, well, I know it's a rigid face with SignComp, I no longer think it's a SignComp. I think it's custom solution. But the companies that have taken these opportunities to do something like this sign we're seeing here, this is an area where you get a kit, you're saving money, you're saving material, and you're saving labor, and you're still achieving that custom look. I mean, that is a really sharp sign to be completely rigid, and very few people would ever guess that there's extrusion in that sign, and that sign was available in a kit form.
Absolutely. Yep. This is actually one of my favorites from Central States. This one's been around a while when we first started curve cutting. So this is actually pretty cool to revisit. So once again, here's the UK one. This is what I was thinking of right here. This was the one done out of rigid material, believe it or not. So the last couple of mounts we showed were with the flex, but this one was actually done with our 6-inch single-sided from 49 degrees up in the ceiling.
The nice picture, the bottom left picture, Jeremy, for those who don't know, who haven't been lucky enough to come to Grand Rapids, the bottom left picture is actually you guys laying it out on the floor at SignComp, making sure all the pieces are lining up to the logo they're looking for.
Absolutely. Not that our lead times are extremely long. I think some of these are 4, 5, 6 days, but the reason being is because we do the quality control before it leaves our facility. So that's a great point, Adam, is that we're laying it out on the floor, making sure it matches your drawing before we package it and send it out the door. I think Brian's got another question there, Adam.
How do you service the rigid face versus the flex face?
Good question, Brian. All right. So if you go back to that central where it's the circle, that's why we encourage you to give our customer service team a call. Let me back up here. This was not illuminated. That was one of our questions too, John, was, hey, is this going to be, do you have to service this at any point? So the answer was no. So obviously we just took our 1-part body and we were able to, actually, I'm sorry, we did our 2-part body because he needed that 14-inch depth. So illuminating was the question. What kind of depth were you looking for, and do you need to service? So he was just applying the faces directly to the outside, so he could get in there if he needed to, but he was just really after that depth. So those are the questions we ask, Brian. With our flex face systems, you can hinge our cabinets open if we're going to the rectangular square, but in these particular cases here is, especially with the 2233, through the face. And it's not as scary as it sounds. If you put the power supply in, let's just say, a bottom right-hand corner somewhere, it's only going to take a couple of clips to remove, peel back that corner, and there's your power supply. Right? Everything else is going to remain under tension.
Yeah, and the whole sign is staying intact. And, to go back to your point on the rigid, Jeremy, a lot of times people will actually cut out a little door or an entranceway and then put all the drivers in one section.
Absolutely. Or they'll remote power supply too. So that's always an option.
Plenty of options.
Plenty there. So feel free to give our customer service team a call. We just wanted to show you some pretty cool applications and things we've accomplished using our extrusions, whether it's going to be flex or rigid. So give our team a call. Make sure you send a DXF or DWG file so that way we can break it down and give you the proper solution.
Awesome. Jeremy, thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Brian's got the toll-free number below. And if you need any 3-inch samples, feel free to send us an email, a comment below, or whatnot. And we can get you some 3-inch samples right out the door for you free of charge.
Absolutely.
All right.
Great day.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Stay healthy.